Welcome to the MBUK Podcast. Now today we have a really special guest with us. None other than Josh Bryceland,
Brendan Fairclough,
Hattie Harnden,
Tracy Moseley,
Davey Burks and Ollie Wilkins, the faces behind the Ride Companion podcast.
The very first door I knocked on, and I always made like the biggest effort. When I started, it was 4 years ago. 2020 was when we started organising the Enduro, and I had my little Defender and I put my wax jacket on and my wellies and went and knocked on a farmer's door. I was like, I better look the part. And the guy was like, I've spent my whole life trying to keep mountain bikes off my land. Why on earth would I let you come across it with an event? And I was like, oh no, this is going to be really, really challenging. And that was day one. I was like, this is going to be an uphill battle. But then they've been amazing. It's changed. It's been a roller coaster and there's been friction, don't get me wrong, but the majority has just been like so welcoming and really, really good.
That's
and
so
met
cool.
this local bloke, Colin. I called him the other week just to check on a few bits and went past his barn and poked my head in, and him and his mate were unloading a bale, little square bales by hand, and we're both like probably 50s, and we were like unloading into a hay barn, a hay loft above where his sheep were, and this old bale trailer was like rickety and knackered, and one of them was stood on my bales chucking them up and was holding my bales and and then they were like, oh, we just needed a strong young lad, just jump up here. So then I spent like an hour unloading these bales with these two lads, just listening to them chat, and just got a mega workout. I was like, right, I've got to feed both of them. And it's just me, and then the more you unloaded, the lower the trailer was getting. I was throw them higher up. And it was so good. I was like, this is mint. I love this.
Nice.
Just like... ended up doing like a few hours work with these lads, listening to their stories and just being part of the local scene. I was like, this is it.
What was your take on the whole Canyon Gap thing at Red Bull at Hardline this year? Because it caused quite a stir. Probably quite good marketing in the run up for the event, because everyone's like, what the fuck's going on with this? And then obviously, what was your take on the whole?
I saw the pictures of it, and whilst it was getting built, we were getting trickled a few leaked images because Matt Hocknell, Dave's brother, was doing the scaffolding, helping build it, so he was sending us pictures and was like, all stood on it, weird angles stuff, Snapchat screenshots and random stuff. So it looks a bit spicy, and then you saw the finish thing and you're like, ooh, proportionately it just, like I was saying about the 90 footers and the mellow takeoffs and stuff, it looked quite a sharp thing. But then the day before we left, the videos of the Jim crashing on it and the boys just making it and stuff, or the picture got leaked of him in the head in it or whatever, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? I've got a 1-year-old, am I really gonna go and do? I've done all this prep, the bike's been painted, all this work's gone in. From me and from other people at the brands I represent.
Everyone's invested.
And I was like,
back.
I'm doing it. I'm gonna go and do that jump. That's what's happening. But am I stupid? Am I? Just having them little internal dialogues thinking,
Did that sort of hark back to 2016 then, when you were
a little bit, I'm back here, and it was it's 2024, it's 2014 I hurt my foot, so I'm like, am I in this 10-year cycle? Is this going to be an injury? Did it going deep? And then the next night before we left, I got in bed and I got a text from the WhatsApp group, Hardline Riders. We were all already in the group, and Grace, who runs the event, saying we've decided to take the jump out, and literally felt like I'd won the race. I was like, fantastic. Oh, that's so nice. Relief, loving it, texting everyone. The funny thing, the week leading up to the race, when all the pictures are going around, people I haven't spoke to for years sending me the picture of a jump. Like, do you think I haven't seen it?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, I've seen it. What do you want me to say? I'm going to go and do it. Stop it. Leave it.
After, I guess, was it your time on Orange? Did you go to Honda after that?
Yeah, had Honda, yeah.
That must have been pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, hugely special. I mean, the pay cut was real. I went from earning 25 grand on Orange, doing what I want to do. Like, I'm rich. I'm getting 2 grand a month into my bank account. Obviously, running out half of it every month. But going from there to a Honda deal, because obviously I was the third rider in Honda. It was an opportunity where I just had to take. Yeah. But it was a huge pay cut, I had to pay for my own food at races. It was a really shit deal, really. But I was on Honda. I got to have this really cool team. I got to ride with Greg and Matty, learn a huge amount from this thing. It's a cool stepping stone for me. Not anything that I regret.
Crazy old bike.
But yeah, it was a cool one. Definitely as a rad one.
What was that bike actually like? Because there's a lot of mysticism around it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously know, people know now, it was just a 7-speed cassette in a box with a derailleur, but the derailleur moved on a pin, so that was like the big secret. But it was had a lot of drag. Okay. So you could ride down a hill with a conventional bike, and the normal bike would pull away. Yeah. But the huge things where you could change gear whenever you wanted because the chain never stopped going round. I only rode it for a year, so I think that I never really... That's a huge change to make. Like, to be able to capitalise on that thing in which you've been riding bikes for 10 years at the time, suddenly be able to change gear. You're told your whole life, do not change gear when you're not pedaling, or like when you change gear, like do it in a nice motion so it's not cranking down the gears or snapping your chain. So that's something I don't think I utilised to its potential. But Greg obviously did. He obviously won a championship on it. It was a cool. It was interesting to see like how hard like Showa and companies like came into the game. I distinctly remember this massive Pelican box. I wasn't allowed a tie spring at the time because I was the crap guy, but Matty and Greg were tie springs, and the suspension mechanic turned up with a massive Pelican box full of tie springs in like 2.5 pound increments.
No way.
Wow.
Dude, and at the time, do you remember how big a tie spring was at the time? Yeah. It was a huge thing to have a tie spring. It's hugely expensive. So he opened this Pelican box, and I was just like, oh my god. And I obviously wasn't allowed. I had to run a yellow steel spring, which I didn't care about, but I remember Greg, and at the time, like I was in the mix. I was a top 10 guy mixing with those guys, and at the time I remember Greg was like, this is bullshit, you should have a tie spring. So he'd go over and just like dip his hand in this box of tie springs. He'd be like, there you go, Brendan. Obviously the suspension, because no, you can't do that. And Greg said, go on, give him a tie spring. Just like mixing up all this box of 2.5 pound increments, like in this perfect box. But and it was the bike. I think it had like 170, 180 mil travel up front, so it's quite a lot less than what was other people had. But it's cool. It was a cool opportunity. It's not wasted on me, but I was like so young and just like didn't give a shit what bike I was on. I was just like monkey strapped to greyhound, full pelt, loving it. What I really love about Rampage is that we go there, and for 10 days it's just wake up at 6 a.m, have our coffee, talk about what we're going to go and do in the day, have our notepad of what we're ticking off that day, and you get 10 days of that every day. You leave at 6, you get back to the hotel at 9 at night, and then what this year would be doing is I'd be filming throughout the day of what we'd do, get back, upload everything I've done, edit till like 12, 1 in the morning. As soon as you get up in the morning, wake up at 5, go and upload it onto YouTube. Luckily I had someone helping me do my thumbnails, so it's a huge process and just like it's nuts, and there's a huge routine that we're doing every day, and I loved that side of it. I loved I know it's like that 10 days of like routine was cool because we had a plan, we had a thing, and then it gets to the day where you have to ride, and I'm just like, oh no, this is upset our routine. Like I was banned from the pickaxe the last 2 days before riding, banned from the rock bar. See, it just rips your hands apart, rips everything apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just like a real camaraderie between us three, and like we're just getting a job done, and we don't see really any other lines or athletes or anything. You just, at the beginning, the first week is just the athletes, diggers, and then you go down for lunch, and it's just like, it's a cool little camaraderie. And then suddenly like media start coming in, and you're almost like going, oh, I don't want the media to come in. Like, we're just, piss off, guys, just leave us in the desert digging our lines and doing the stuff. But then it quickly becomes real, because then you have to start testing all your stuff. You don't know whether what you've spent the last 10 days on is going to work or not, and then you've been pulled in a million different directions, like bike check here, then you got media up there, and like every single thing you do, there's like 20 different media around you, like sniping you, and it's really bloody tough. And then you suddenly just think, shit, I've got to ride or do something that better than I've ever done after 10 days digging on something that we've just dug and like dreamed up, we don't even know works. Like, hate to bring up the lad sciencing, it's just, we're just sciencing something that, can you even get across there? Like,
right.
And often like you can't, like you've done 10 days of work with you and your friends, and you spend so much time around a thing. The first day of testing, you could case it, go over the bars, smash both your thumbs up, and then you've wasted your time.
But like, I got on this train in Switzerland. I got dropped to like a train station, got on this train down to like Gap, and then across to somewhere like Grenoble or something. And I remember like sitting on this train with like big suitcase bike, like not letting anything out of my sight, like absolutely shitting myself. like didn't really use a phone, like nothing like that, like had my Nokia brick, all of that. And then just like managed, I was like, still find it amazing to this day. Her husband James was there at the train station when I got there. I was like, I was worried I was just gonna be sat in the middle of France on my own. It's like, what do I do?
The worst places to be.
True.
Tom's a massive fan of France.
Really?
The whole of France.
Hence the croissants.
The croissant.
Yeah. But no, that got to my first Enduro race in EWS in Les Ors. And that was like my first proper like experience of like European enduro racing at like World Cup level, and it was eye-opening. Like 2 days of racing, and I just was like, it was like the most amazing thing in the world. Beautiful mountains, we got like a couple of shuttles up like on the gondolas and things, and I just remember my arms just hurting so much all day. And like I got to the end of the first day and I was like, oh my God, my arms are going to fall off. Like no downhill training, no gym training, nothing. Just kind of, Tracy just classic chucks me off a hill and goes, yeah, you'll be all right. She did that a lot in the past. And yeah, it was like, it was just amazing. It had the craziest hailstorm there, like massive hailstorm. Yeah. Like woke up to like massive drifts of hailstones. It was really random. But yeah, that was like my first experience of enduro, and I think I would have won the race, but I broke my wheel. I got punctured and I broke my wheel. So like you have to do the wheel change and then you get a 3-minute time penalty. So then that bumped me back into third place, I think. But I think after that, Tracy was like, yeah, actually you're really quite good at this. Like we should get you to another one. In the UK, there's not the enduro kind of scene in terms of racing isn't as big as it was. There's not as many enduro races. And so it became a thing where I was like, I'll just do a couple of national downhill races, get some good laps in, same track.
Win a national title.
Learn to go faster, that sort of thing. And yeah, ended up doing some national downhill races that year, and was then kind of like, did well at the first one, won the first one, and was like, right, actually, I'm kind of serious about trying to go to World Champs in Fort William. I was like, yeah, why not? And I remember someone I knew said to me, was like, oh yeah, like maybe, like don't get your hopes up. Like those women are really fast. And I was like, yeah, like I'm just going for the experience. Like, yeah, but you still got to get selected. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then you like start totting it up and you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of fast women from the UK. I was like, oh, this could be touch and go. But then, yeah, ended up winning national championships, which really like cemented my position there. Although I guess it was actually Lenzerheide first. That was one of the coolest experiences ever. So like, I raced in Lenzerheide in 2018 at World Championships for cross country, and then it ended up being my first ever downhill World Cup. And so it was quite like a cool moment to come all the way back around and be like, wow, we're going racing here. And actually I think it was the night before the race, or like before practice, and I was stood at the bottom of the track with a friend of mine, and I bumped into Rory Cunningham. Yeah. And he was like, oh, hey, like, how are you doing? He's like, oh, you're here for the cross country. I was like, no, mate. We're going down a racing. And I was like, wow, people actually think I still race cross country. I was like, this is quite funny.
That's mad, yeah.
But yeah, that was like super cool. Like, really didn't think I was going to make like any sort of like good time in the downhill racing there. You know, like super fast track, lots of jumps and things. I was like, really not my thing, but I'll give it a go. And then, you know, top 10 into finals. I was like, no way I'll ever make finals. And then ended up each run, I was like, oh, okay, like we came down into 7th. Oh, you know, like this is really blooming good. And I remember just being so buzzing. I was like running around the pits like I'd won the thing. And I was just like, no, I've just made it to finals. That's amazing. Yeah, it was a really cool experience.
It was a big weekend as well, with Kovarik set the biggest winning margin, didn't he? Yeah,
it was epic weather conditions, and it was.
Yeah, you guys really had to battle, didn't you?
Yeah, if you look back now, you know how manufactured the course is and how hardcore it is, and if there's a hole develops, you know, someone's got to go and fill it in pretty quick. I mean, it was raw. It was some sections were like going off, you know, the man-made kind of, well, the hardcore as they thought it was back then. And then you just sink into, it's a natural peat bog. You know, they just put a bit of soil on a peat bog. It's only so long before that soil sinks into a peat bog. Yeah. And there were sections where you were literally just lean back as far as you could and just hope your front wheel didn't dig in to the point where it just ejected you over the front. And that's what a lot of the course was like that. And hence, you know, a pretty historic win for me, but it was conditions where, you know, it all went wrong for Anne Caro, who was the top rider at the time. She was winning everything. And I think she just crashed and got taken out by a big hole, and the door was open for someone else to win. So I kind of got lucky in those conditions.
Good.
But that was what racing was like back then. Yeah. It was pretty wild. The tracks were really long. It wasn't as well maintained, so you weren't getting, you know, there was lots of line choices, lots of opportunities to make time or lose time. Whereas now it's so cutthroat, and, you know, everything's buff, it's got to run fast, and to try and make a gap on someone else is almost impossible. So racing was very different back then, but almost like quite exciting, because it was like just getting down the track sometimes was an achievement or staying on your bike. Honestly, just fortunate that in 2013 the Enduro World Series began, and I was like, I want to have a go at that. And I remember being at that first race in Punta Ala in the May of 2013, and there being cross-country X races, Cecile Ravenel. There was, you know, downhillers like myself there. There was a few enduro specialists. Jerome Clements had raced pretty much only Mega Avalanche and enduros in France. Yep. And there was this mix of people from some XXC races from the men's side as well. There was a whole mixing pot of mountain bikers about to take part in this first enduro. And it was like, who is actually going to win this, and where's this going to go? And it was amazing. And for me to come out and win that first ever World Enduro was something that I did not expect to do, because no one, I guess, really knew where you'd
didn't have a gauge on
stack up. No, and I remember I hadn't got this memo that everyone was like shuttling up the roads. They booked these private shuttles with the company, and we're driving, getting the bikes in the back. Me and James were riding around for hours at a time. And I remember then just like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? But that was something that also really frustrated me about the sport, that I hated the fact that we had to shuttle when we had a bike that could pedal. So I kind of made it my thing then. I remember one year, I think it was the first year I won the World Enduro overall in Finale, where you can drive on the roads and shuttle. I was like, no, I'm going to pedal everything. And I had some massive days, and I was like, and still won the race on the day. And it was just like my little thing to kind of like, I really want Enduro to be that kind of self-sufficiency event where you don't need a shuttle, you don't need a chairlift, you can go and explore on your own power. And I think the sport's kind of evolved since then. It's gone through a whole cycle, and I feel like we're at the point now where maybe it's going to go back that way. And I think that's the appeal for me then of those multi-day enduros, because they were that adventure. Yeah. They were that big day out. They were that you being self-sufficient out in the mountains, getting to ride incredible trails. I love the blind racing aspect too. I love that fact of not knowing where you're going and having to kind of just fly by seat your pants and work it out and look around a corner and look ahead. And I love that style of enduro racing. So I think that's what really has appealed to me about the kind of the multi-day ones, because that's exactly what they are. Just a big adventure. You meet amazing people and you ride bikes in places you'd never ever get to any other way.
Basically, it was proving really difficult to market this company, Hook It. I was like, I didn't really know how to market. We didn't really have marketing money. So I came up with 2 ideas to market this company.
Okay.
Idea number 1 was try and break the world record for the longest ever mountain bike jump. So that was idea number 1. And I got as far as getting a stunt coordinator. I got bikes sorted. I got a location.
You were going to do it?
Yeah.
Like Eddie the Eagle did. I wish this had happened.
We never spoke about this.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So
you got a stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
It's gone from like Instagram, setting up a podcast. Do you know what? I'm going to jump 20 buses.
That was what you...
Wait, so
I love this. This is the magic of podcasting. This is great.
So idea number 1, break the world record for the longest ever jump on a mountain bike. All right. At the time, I think it might still be Jason Rennie who did Nathan Rennie.
Yes.
No, Jason Rennie. Jason Rennie.
Was it Rennie?
Yeah, Jason Rennie. He was a motorcycle stunt.
Oh,
Jason something.
It was
Jason
like
Rennie.
It was in your magazine, wasn't it?
South Wales.
Yeah.
And he got towed in.
Sorry,
Nathan,
on the back of a...
Rennie did one for Red Bull, didn't he? In the desert.
In the desert.
And then Jason... Yeah, you're right.
I know my stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I looked into
Was
it.
he Rennie though?
Yeah, Jason Rennie.
Yeah, he was.
Rennie.
Yeah.
He used to do motorcycle jumps on a Yamaha.
I mean,
How
unfortunate.
I remember this.
Wild guy.
How unfortunate that both of the people with the world record had a surname Rennie.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be so annoying if
Mixed up
Pete
all the time.
Wilkins went and knocked me off the top step. You know what I mean?
Well, you'd just be in Waterstones with a marker pen. Just go to it.
I'd be interested to know who it is now, because obviously there's been a lot of
Yeah,
big
must have been
jumps.
loads.
But this was ramp to dirt, is what I'm talking. I'm talking ramp to dirt. So Jason Rennie had the record, and I remember looking at it and being like, "It's
What
not."
was the record?
I've got in my head it's 112 feet.
Oh my God.
40 metres.
You were up for that?
Mate, I was ready to risk my life to promote this business. Like, actually ready to risk my life. So anyway, idea 1, break this record. I did get as far as stunt coordinator, location, even visited the place, figured out where this landing was going to be. I'd got someone to drive a motorcycle, tow me in. It was like...
You tried that?
No, we were just getting... I was getting the wheels in motion.
Okay.
And...
Can't believe.
Imagine if I'd done it. I wouldn't be sat here. I'd be in a wheelchair. I might be sat here, but I wouldn't be in this chair.
Just Davey ringing into the business partners. Has there been a spike in sales? No.
Anybody see it? Did anybody see this? Anyway, so that was idea number 1. And genuinely, I was like really, really keen for it. The second idea was a podcast. Sorry, the second idea was...
Seems easier,
a little bit. I mean, you're saying that. But I feel like
chat for a bit.
Weighing it up now, I might have gone.
Don't
with
need
the
a
world
stunt
record.
coordinator for that. Don't need to get towed into the studio.
Put the fire extinguisher away, son. Not necessary.
Cancel the insurance. We're safe.
Oh dear.
Wow.
You know, the one thing that really put me off was like how much this stunt coordinator wanted to charge. It was literally, that was the bit. I was like, I can't afford it.
Otherwise, you'd have cracked on.
Well, we were ready to go, mate. If he was doing it for free, we were.
Did you have him on as the first
We got
guest?
it? What is it?
It was 133 feet 6 inches.
Jason Rennie.
Jason Rennie.
100. Not that crazy, right?
I mean,
It's still a really long way.
You know what? Slightly off topic, but in between starting Hook It and just trying to get this thing going, I was doing some work for a company called Bike Track, building BMX tracks. And we had one of those tape measures, you know, really. And I remember basing it out and being like, oh, it's quite far.
Can I ask you about the first Warner one you did?
Please.
When Rob really opened up.
Please.
That couldn't have been easy. I mean, obviously, I know you know Rob really well, but it's not something he speaks all about, you know, everything that he sort of spoke about isn't something that's commonly known, is it, at all? So that couldn't have been easy.
I was terrified, and I didn't tell Davey, and then I told him that morning because I was just like, I knew what we were going to talk about basically, and I didn't want to give you a run up into it.
No,
you know what I mean. I think preparing for it would have been,
which I thought I was just, I thought I was just unprepared and stupid because I didn't understand the magnitude of what Rob was going to talk about.
Yeah.
But in your
Well,
credit to you, it worked better because
so you could react.
I was just like,
authentic.
whoa, and asking questions
But
and not like trying to overthink it.
I was terrified.
Yeah,
because he's like a really good mate, and I really wanted, like, you know, you're live, you're in the moment, you don't want to say the wrong thing. Anything can be taken as wrong these days. The internet's a very dangerous place, and like, especially with your mate, you want it to be comfortable, you want it to be good, and it couldn't have really gone, you know, any better. I think
no. I mean, Rob talks about perfect broadcasts. I feel that was very close to being a perfect podcast
because we didn't have to talk.
We didn't talk much.
I think I was listening to that. I was driving somewhere. It's like I think I had like about an hour and a half's drive, and I was like, "Oh, like Warner's fun." Like I'll put that. It might have been like a 2-hour-ish podcast.
Yeah.
And like that was one where I actually stopped at the end of the drive, got there, and I was like, "Well, I'll just wait here." So like it was such a good, interesting, and like thought-provoking and like deep conversation. Like, almost emotional sort of. It was a really like, because he's someone that I met him a couple of times, but I don't know him, right? But you feel you know him because you've watched so much like Red Bull stuff, and like he's such a personality that there's like this real connection. It was an amazing sort of podcast.
Credit to you boys. Seeing another side of someone who's normally so sort of alpha and loud and sort of.
I've got to say, I think powerful Rob Warner is the only person that can, do something so well and in such a good way as well. Like it was you could see the impact it had. You followed on what happened afterwards, and it's like when someone like that does something, it really counts, I think, doesn't it? It's like that's been a weird thing, that one. That's been a strange one, because going into that as well, I guess for more context, I'd met Rob twice ever. Ollie's like, he's my mate. I wasn't mates with Rob Warner before doing that, and it felt already going into it, I was just like, this is mad.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you reflect back on talking about how this thing started and us doing the thing, and like you sat there with Rob Warner, and then he starts crying, and you're just like, what is going on? This is crazy.
It's quite surreal, huh?
Yeah, this is crazy. So I think for many reasons that one hit hard. You know what I mean? Like it was just like that perfect thing, probably for all of us, and it was a very proud moment to have got a platform.
Yeah.
Worked on building a platform that someone wanted to use for something so deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
And even in the last one we just did with Rob, I don't know if you picked up on it, you might have, but he said that's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And honestly, I had to hold back tears. I'm like, wow, what a privilege, what an honour to be even part of any of that.
Yeah.
To even have shook the guy's hand years ago, what an honour. Like, really cool, real cool. Means a lot. Means a hell of a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what a story. And again, sorry to bang on about it, but the knock-on effect of, Rob talks about it, right, about the messages, all the stuff that comes from it is just like an absolute honour to be able to do it. If anyone takes anything away from it, you're just like, whoa.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a real thing. Real thing. And we should be having more conversations like that.
Absolutely.